Hey guys, this is Pat and Heidi from Rain Country Homestead.
God is good.
All the
All
time.
the time.
And today we want to talk about some popular things that people often ponder. And the big question that we want to put out there to you today is prepping for everybody? Yep. The end.
Goodbye.
No, just kidding. We got more to come. We just wanted to touch on a few thoughts for you to consider, because everybody has a unique situation, whether you live in a city or whether you live in a country or someplace in between. There are different needs that are unique to different people. And so whether it's medical, whether it's logistics, the area of the country that you live in and what country you live in, all these things have a factor in what you actually prepare for and what you prepare with and what extra items that you might consider keeping on hand in order to make it through some specific period of time, and depending on what the issue is.
Water contamination.
Right, any kind of
anything. Power
any kind of
outages.
man-made issue or natural issue. Everything is just a little bit unique, but there's
Right.
a lot of things that overcross or actually are pretty uniform as far as necessities are concerned. Of course, you need your food, you need your water, and you need your shelter. Those are the most important things. Water being second to air, so you always need your air. You can only live 3 minutes without it.
So why would we say that everyone should prep, and that preparedness is for everyone? This was a recent conversation I had with someone. And some people may say, well, it's not for us. God's not calling us to do that or whatever. And that's fine if you're talking about, big level preparedness. Maybe you don't feel that's something you need to do. Maybe you feel like you're in a safe enough place. You're set up enough that being prepared for a long period of time isn't necessary. Obviously, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. But as far as some very basics, I say no matter where you live, no matter who you are, you need to at least have a few basic things put in place, because anything and everything can happen. In our area, power outages that can go for at least 24 hours, even up to 3 days, are fairly common here. Usually 24 hours is max, but we've had them last for 3 days. And yet, even in our small remote town with yearly frequent power outages, I am still astounded at the great amount of people that are not ready when the power goes out. They don't have enough food on hand. They don't have any sort of lighting source or heat source or cooking source. And if it's going to be a longer term power outage than just a day, what are you going to do? What happens when anything goes wrong? I hear it all the time: water contamination, chemical spills, whatever. You may wake up one day and find out your city water is contaminated for some reason, and now you're given at least a boil water notice. Well, at least you still got water, but what if you don't even have water because the pipes are frozen due to obviously a blizzard or some other cold weather? You got to have a backup water source. That, like Mr. Rain said, water is second to air. You got to have that water. You need to have it to drink with, to wash with, to cook with.
Not just water, but safe water when it comes to drinking.
Right.
Some waters can even burn your body, depending on the toxicity of it. Just consider this: there are people all over the world that have never experienced a calamity. They think, well, I'm safe. This has never happened to me. It's never going to happen to me, or they haven't given it much thought. Us as people, we are generally focused on what our immediate needs are, what our immediate issues are, and we tend to coddle those things. We tend to not look too too far in the distant future. But if any of you guys out there are historians or have looked at history all over the world, including the United States, things are going to happen and things will happen. And whether or not it happens in your lifetime or not, how many people out there have insurance policies? We've invested in insurance for years and years and years, and when you go to use it, it's not available to you. So
Nope.
you really have to consider what ifs. Now, I'm not saying, okay, everybody freak out, go out and get a loan for an underground bunker,
Right.
you know, and hire your own
That's the
private
last
army
thing you should do.
and hire your own private army in that. I'm just saying, things that are within reach, extra bag of rice, bag of beans, and
Even some bottled water that
Just
I
some-
don't
right.
agree with bottled water. It's better than no water. So, yeah. The insurance thing I want to touch on because, you know, people might think that people who even put away for just a few days worth of food and water, they might call that crazy, yet they'll spend thousands of dollars every year on insurance they may never use. And when that policy period's up, goodbye all that money if you never used it, or like in our case, you try to use it and, well, the insurance company decides it's not going to be there for you. However, insurance in the form of a tangible asset like long-term food storage and water and a cook source, even if it's just a little camp stove, those things can and will pay off. And even if you never use it, it's still there. You can still work through it. I mean, we
Right.
don't like just leave our food and never, you know, that we have in storage and never use it, never eat it. We cycle through it.
right, rotation's important.
Right. But anyway, the minimum, if you were to go to, like for Washington State, the minimum that they recommend at the, what is it, the Department of Health, that you have on hand for whatever disaster is 3 days worth of food and water.
Right.
And that's not very much because there's a lot of disasters. I mean, if you happen to be in a place that gets hit by tornado, tsunami, you know, hurricanes or anything like that, it could be a lot longer than 3 days. And I tell you what, them grocery stores near you, they are only set up to have enough food in there to supply the community for 3 days.
Right.
That's it. And if a disaster strikes, those stores shelves will be emptied if there's no way for the trucks to make it in. Like where we live, we could be cut off on both sides. It has happened before. And our store shelves were starting to go empty.
This is nothing to get freaked out about.
No.
It's just something to consider and really consider, well, what could happen where I'm at? You know, do you live around some nuclear facilities or a high-risk area that could be hit with a military attack or a, you know, foreign attack or whatever like that? Just, you know, just kind of go through these scenarios. And we've had very good discussion, and we encourage discussion in the comment section below. We get some really good comments and some good ideas.
You got to realize, despite what you may have been led to believe, the chances of the government being there to help you in your time of need is going to be very slim and most likely not going to happen.
Take control of your future, take control of your necessities. If you have a specific medical need or anything like that, you need to make sure that you have a resource for medications that you might need.
Yep.
And consider natural means of taking
Right.
care of
Start
those
seriously
issues.
looking into those. Herbal remedies really do work, people. It's not just fake stuff or whatever. It really does work. I mean, we have videos out about how we took ourselves off thyroid medication. So we are not on any pharma drugs. We were for 15 years, but we're not now. So part of the reason we did this was for the sake of our health, but also so if something happened and we didn't have access to our thyroid medication, what could we do? So I started doing some research. But anyway, that's a whole nother ball of wax. I'll go ahead and link to our last video about that up here. But so anyway, we could go into lots and lots of details, lots of scenarios, but the truth is no matter where you live, even if you think there's possibility of absolutely no natural disaster, there are still things that can and do happen to people all over the United States, no matter where they live. It could be something as simple, which is not simple, it's horrible, but something as simple as a job loss. And power outages do happen all over the country for various reasons.
Going on power, the power grid is a very fragile system out there. Some may beg to differ, but water, the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of aging water systems out there that could come under contamination or attack or a major upheaval due to earthquakes or seismic activity. Those are just two utilities that are vulnerable. And hats off to all the folks out there who take care of those systems, but what happens when a major thing like Katrina or something like that comes through and you're overwhelmed with work to be done? I mean, there are people who die in places like that for starvation, sickness, attacks of all kinds.
Elements, because maybe it's cold and they don't have any heat source.
So yeah, you just want to make sure that you just, don't worry yourself sick to death about this stuff, but you just logically think about in your area what kind of things that you might consider keeping on hand. Obviously, for everybody has to eat, everybody has to think of hygiene, everybody has to keep warm and clothed, and so
hydrated.
Exactly. And think of some of the things that are more vulnerabilities than others in your area. You might consider, like, if you're close to fires, okay, what would happen if a wildfire came through your area? I mean, on the West Coast over here, we've had a lot of fires, a lot of deaths, a lot of homes burn up, and they lose everything. So how do you guard against something like that? Well, you can only guard against something like that to a limited amount. Not everybody can run out and buy a fire truck and have their property clear around the whole doggone 40-acre piece or whatever, but we can do small things in order to help to minimize the effects of natural and or man-made disasters.
So if you're living, a lot of people out there, they may have issues with space. So you live in an apartment and you don't have a lot of space for storing 2 years worth of food, which is great if you can, but if you don't, again, just start small. And maybe it's also limited funds. It's so easy to simply start small. A bag of rice, a bag of beans, don't forget your spices. It doesn't have, as long as you at least have enough for a few days and something to cook with. These are so important. And again, the water. That's why I'm saying that all over again, because these are things that that aren't going to take up as much room if you at least put away enough for a few days for each you and any of your other family members. You have to have enough for 3 days for each of you. So remember that. So the size of your family is also going to determine how much you actually need to put away.
What would a bag of beans and a bag of rice and like a life straw cost you?
A life straw and stuff like that is usually about $20, and that's something that's small, doesn't take up very much room. I'll go ahead and link to a couple different ones below. And that's if let's say your water's contaminated and you can use that, or you collect water somewhere, you can use that to drink through or filter it through so you have clean water. These are really good things to have. We have several different types of water filtration systems around here. Anyway, those are recommended because they're small and you can get one for each member of the family, the Sawyer or the life straw.
People got like a 50-pound bag of rice, a 50-pound bag of beans, and a
a
life straw. Under $50, $75 maybe. And yeah, you're going to get food fatigue if you have just those items. But just think of where that can take you in an emergency situation. That can take your food from possibly nothing or maybe a couple of days or whatever you got in the cupboards to, a month.
And having some
And-
spices and herbs on hand to flavor it and give it different, give it different flavor is gonna help. But beans and rice are always mentioned because of the protein value, the calorie value, and the fact that they're so cheap. So even if you're saying, well, I don't even have $100 to just go buy all that stuff right now, that's okay. You just go pick up a small bag of rice, a small bag of beans. Each one of these are only gonna be a couple dollars.
Any
Each
of
time
those
you
any dried lentils,
Right, just make it a point that every time you go to the store, try to budget yourself a couple extra dollars to grab. Maybe this week it's going to be that bag of rice, and maybe next week it's going to be a bag of beans, and then maybe the next week it's going to be some bottled water. However much that you can get and store. Just start small. You do not. I think the problem. I was going to mention this earlier, but I think the problem with the reason why people say, oh, it's not for me, is because they've spent their time watching shows like Doomsday Preppers. And they think that, oh, I have to do that. No. Doomsday Preppers they always show the most extreme or the most crazy people on there. Not all of them are crazy. Some of them are they just make them look crazy.
well, it's the draw factor. It
Yeah.
keeps you glued in. Wow, that's extravagant,
Right.
or that's over the top, or it's.
But
Who's going to watch somebody just sit there to tell you
Like us.
Yeah.
So most people do like what we did, and they start small and they work up. And I tell you, once you kind of get into it, you start finding new ways to put aside a little bit more money to be able to get a little bit more food storage. You start getting more creative and thinking of other things that you can do, and also other things that you can do to find space to store these things. I've seen people get all kinds of creative, but again, the degree that you decide to do your prepping is entirely up to you, your needs, your area, and what you have to work with. You shouldn't feel like you have to fit into any one person's way of doing things. If you've got an extra bag of, if you've got a 5-pound bag of rice and a 5-pound bag of beans on hand, you're doing a lot better than a lot of other people. So that's a start. And if that's all you have, at least it's something, and that's going to matter.
Well, and as far as how do you do this and how do you do that? What's the method? How do you store and all that stuff? And we have videos
We have lots
out
of
there
videos.
that kind of go into depth on some of this stuff. If there's any requests of anything that you'd guys like to see, then leave that in the comment section below. And
Or have us talk more thoroughly about, because
Right.
I'll go ahead and link to the playlist we did last year. We had 11 parts to it, and it's how and why we prepare. And even since doing those videos, some of the things that we do have changed a little bit. Like our bug out bags, we've kind of updated them a little bit, and we try to do that every so often, update them and keep them going. We just added some new food ration bars to them. I just made the chocolate ones and I'm adding to there. So we have, we go somewhere, let's say we break down in the middle of nowhere when we're on a trip, we've got food and water we're taking care of.
the answer is yes, that preparedness is for everyone, and that includes you. That's just our opinion. I think over the years it's proven to be a pretty important thing for us, and we've come into more than one occasion where being debt free, having materials on hand, building materials, tools, food, shelter, clothes, all of that stuff has actually really come to our rescue
Absolutely.
in the past. There's
Many times.
a very recent situation where we could have lost everything if we wouldn't have been the way we are.
Yep.
So anything can happen. Just because we live in the United States does not exempt us from
Right.
being calamity free.
No matter how safe and financially secure you think you are, you're probably not as secure as you think you are. Just keep that in mind. So, and we do this because we have a lot of people out there we care about, and you know, we hope that eventually they'll get that message and understand the importance. And yes, please share your own experiences down below, because these are the experiences, these are the stories that people need to read. People who are still trying to believe that nothing bad's ever going to happen to them, or they're going to get raptured out of here because they'll never have to experience anything bad. Put your experiences down below and how preparedness helped you to get through it, so that others can see that. I think that is very, very important.
Yeah, real life stuff. We've had people comment before on some of our other preparedness videos and said,
Excellent
yeah,
comments.
you know, you're right on. This happened to me, and they went on about their story, and yeah, you know, and it
Yeah.
kind of either concretes what we're trying to share with you guys, but it also helps to solidify and concrete in other people
Yep.
who are considering this, you know. And these are all people, as far as I can remember, people that, you know, live here in the United States. But, you know, this is a small planet that we're on, and we're all subject to the same type of political and financial and natural issues that are out there. So, like, subscribe, and share. And leave those comments down below.
Okay, yes. And thanks for watching,
Take care.
and God bless.